Applebloom was escorted back to her dark and gloomy room, lighted by the small amount of sunlight that could seep through the small window high within the room. The reason the windows were so high in the rooms were to prevent any sort of escape from being possible. She just sat, staring at the window along the edge of her bed, seeing that was the only sunlight she'd ever see for the rest of her life. There was a light switch in her room, but Applebloom preferred to remain in the dark. Seeing the light only made her feel angry, usually leading to a reckless act on her part. She had already smashed the mirror, and there was indentations in the wall in the corner where she liked to sit, from her banging her head and hooves against the wall. Streams of blood were also visible from the indented areas, and she even had a scar on her head from the impact she had caused herself. She only hurt herself as a punishment for all that she had done. Her life used to be full of joy and happiness, despite the times when Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon mocked her for being a blank flank. She grew angry at the thought of those two, but once she remembered what she had done to them, along with Scootaloo and Sweet Belle's help, her angry tone changed to a much more sinister one. She let out a sinister laugh, along with a smile that glowed in the pitch-black darkness.
They deserved it. They taunted us. They made us feel different. Now they're equal to us. It's fair now.
She continued to laugh as her mood changed again. Her laugh fell to a cry as tears streamed from her eye sockets, and she fell to the floor. She sat on the floor, supported by only her knees, and sobbed uncontrollably, repeating the words, "What have I become?" over and over.
What have I become?
She pounded her hooves against the hard concrete floor, her own guilt consuming her. Through her struggles, she started to hear the voices of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon echo in the darkness. The voices were not of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon taunting her, but only of them pleading for mercy when the CMC finally decided to perform the unthinkable to the two. The night that the CMC performed their first unmarking, when everything would change for the CMC. Applebloom's mind started to remember that day, and what had finally made the CMC snap. The day was like no other, as the recess bell rang, and every filly and colt rushed out of the school onto the schoolyard. The CMC were the last out, seeing they had to gather some things for recess. The three had been planning on an easier way to determine how to get their cutie marks, seeing they were doing repeats on how to get their cutie marks. They rushed out of the school, and sat at an empty table, where Sweetie Belle unscrolled the scroll they planned on using as a guide. All three took a seat next to each other, while creating a chart outline. Everything was going fine, until the CMC's biggest rivals decided to intervene.
What are you blank flanks up to? Planning how to fail at getting your cutie marks?
The CMC had become used to Diamond Tiara's constant insults, and usually ignored her.
I asked you three a question.
We don't have time for your insults, Diamond Tiara. Why don't you and Silver Spoon get lost? We're actually doing something with our lives.
Diamond Tiara retracted, feeling offended by Scootaloo's statement.
What right do you blank flanks have to tell some pony like me, with an actual cutie mark, to get lost?
Scootaloo had grown tired of Diamond Tiara's attempts to get them angry, seeing that's what she wanted.
Hey, we asked nicely. Now, would you and your lapdog please leave us alone?
Diamond Tiara had grown angry, along with Silver Spoon, and they immediately invaded their personal space.
Fine, if you blank flanks won't answer us, why don't we just see for ourselves? Seriously? This looks like a load of garbage, so allow me to dispose of it.
Diamond Tiara just laughed.
What did you do that for?
Yeah, we didn't do anything to you.
We were simply saving you the trouble of failing once again at getting your cutie marks. Diamond Tiara and I both know that you blank flanks will never get your cutie marks for anything, because you are best at failing.
Scootaloo had grown tired of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon's careless acts.
Why, I oughta.
Before she could make any sort of impact, Scootaloo was pulled back by Sweet Belle and Applebloom.
Let me go!
Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon just continued laughing, causing Applebloom to become more angry, seeing all the hard work they had endured for the past weeks was now destroyed, all over them being blank flanks, which was completely unnecessary. She continued to hold back Scootaloo from the two ignorant fillies, hearing the recess bell ring.
Later, Blank Flanks.
Once Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon were out of sight, Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle released Scootaloo. She was still angry, but Apple Bloom had a plan that would ease Scootaloo's anger and make things even.
Girls, meet me at the clubhouse after school. It's time to even things out with those two once and for all.
And so it begun. Apple Bloom returned to reality, stepping out of her state of insanity. The sounds of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon's pleas and screams faded away as she carefully settled herself back onto the cold bed, staring into the darkness. She didn't feel any emotion, and as a way to keep herself stable, she started counting until she would be called out for lunch. The sound of her counting created an eerie feeling within the dark, cold room. She seemed like a drone within a sleep mode, only her eyes were wide open, not blinking once in the entire series of counting. It was strange that the only time she didn't have nightmares was when she'd enter a sleep through counting, and her eyes were still wide open, as if she were daydreaming. Was that the case? No Pony knew. The next day, Apple Bloom snapped out of her state of counting, not remembering where she had ended. Her mind was completely blank as she looked around in the darkness, feeling as if she were being watched by the demons of her past. An eerie breeze blew throughout the small room, even though there was not a single opening within the room. But it wasn't the first time she had felt this breeze. From under her breath, she muttered something.
Why do you continue to hide from me? I know you're there.
From the darkness, a foul odor that Apple Bloom was all too familiar with entered her nostrils, not even phasing her.
Seriously? That's all you got? You truly are a coward.
Her taunting was interrupted by the sound of her door opening, and the room being engulfed in light. A young nurse stood in the doorway, staring at the young filly, sitting on the edge of her bed.
Apple Bloom? Who are you talking to? A coward. That's who.
The nurse stood, confused.
Apple Bloom, there's nothing here. It's only you.
Apple Bloom expressed an annoyed look, following a chuckle.
You wouldn't understand. No pony would understand except myself. Have you ever killed any pony? Have you ever gone so low that you took a cutie mark from some pony that clearly deserved it? No, you never have. You don't get me. No pony does.
The nurse retracted, knowing that Apple Bloom was in a state of anger that could lead to much worse. She kept her distance, feeling a small drop of sweat flow down the side of her head. The room started to feel heavy and insecure, as she noticed Apple Bloom staring at her strangely.
No pony would ever understand, especially you. Do you understand now, nurse?
The nurse nodded her head as she trembled backward, slamming the door. Once the door was shut, she quickly galloped, feeling as if she were being followed. The fellow doctors and nurses watched the startled nurse, attempting to question why she was in such a rush. She didn't respond to any of them, as she made her way to Apple Bloom's therapist's office. The therapist, named Dr. Coltstein, sat at his desk going through some documents. He noticed the young nurse's state and immediately attempted to calm her.
Calm down, Miss Daisy.
He read her name tag. Her state of fear made it hard for her to relax, as she managed to take a seat in one of the open chairs. She took in deep breaths, still feeling as if something were watching her. Dr. Coltstein calmed her by presenting her with a cup of coffee.
Why are you so startled?
She struggled to answer.
I'm not sure, Doctor.
Something is clearly troubling you, so why don't you start telling me what started this?
Well, I went to go check on patient 17,056 due to some strange behavior, and I can't explain what happened.
Patient 17056.
Her name is Apple Bloom. She's a young filly.
Dr. Coltstein paused Daisy and stood up from his desk.
What sort of behavior was she doing?
She was talking to something, as if she were taunting something.
Interesting. Miss Daisy, could you please bring Apple Bloom to my office? I have many things to discuss with her.
The nurse gulped, unsure of what Dr. Coltstein was planning. Apple Bloom and Dr. Coltstein sat across from each other. About 10 minutes had passed in the session, and it had been nothing but sheer silence. Dr. Coltstein gave Apple Bloom a stern look as she stared down, refusing to speak. Dr. Coltstein didn't want to waste the entire session silent, seeing he wanted to find out more about what Apple Bloom was taunting, and if he could, get more information on why she killed her friends. However, he'd have to earn her trust first.
Apple Bloom, you know as well as me that not talking to me isn't going to make me go away. The longer you remain silent, the more you have to deal with me every day.
Apple Bloom looked at him, hearing only the sound of the clock ticking within the room.
What do you want me to say, Doctor?
You know what I want you to say, Apple Bloom. However, I won't force you to say it. I'm willing to wait as long as it takes for that ticking time bomb within you to finally explode.
Then I guess you'll be waiting forever, Doctor. Until you earn my trust, I won't speak anything.
Then tell me,
Tell you
what can I do to earn your trust?
y'all are just trying to trick me.
I'm all ears, Apple Bloom.
Apple Bloom expressed a confused look. Apple Bloom didn't know whether or not to trust the doctor, but one thing always bugged her during her therapy sessions, and that was her shackles. Apple Bloom decided to test him.
Okay, how about we start by removing these shackles? If you remove the shackles, I'll tell you one piece of the puzzle. But I know you doctors. You could care less about me.
Then allow me to prove you wrong, Apple Bloom.
Dr. Coltstein knew that now was his chance, but removing her shackles could put him in danger. However, he was the one who asked the question, so he knew that to gain her trust, this was one step. He grabbed a spare key from his desk drawer and unlocked the shackles, giving her limbs freedom. The shackles hit the floor with a hard thump, as Apple Bloom sat, shocked that Dr. Coltstein had actually fulfilled her request. To test Apple Bloom, Dr. Coltstein stood in front of Apple Bloom, allowing her to strike him in any way. She looked at him confused.
Why are you standing there like that?
I was testing you to see if I gave you freedom, would you have the urge to attack me?
She looked at him, remaining calm.
I think we finally connected evenly, Apple Bloom. Now you must fulfill your promise.
What promise?
You said if I remove the shackles, you told me one piece of the puzzle. So I expect you to keep that promise.
Fair enough. I'll tell you what happened the first night me and my friends committed an unmarking.
Dr. Coltstein nodded his head as Apple Bloom started to speak the night the madness began.
It all started one day after me and my friends had grown tired of a couple of mean mares named Tiara and Silver Spoon. They had crossed the line by destroying something we had all worked on for weeks for no reason, and they had to be taught a lesson. They made fun of us for being blanks, so what better way to solve the issue than by removing them of what made us different from them? It's a night I'll never forget.
Dr. Coltstein had no idea what to expect, as he felt a chill flow down his spine. This tale would forever haunt his dreams.